multiple years?
GMs.
DDGMs.
Oh, district deputies. No, it, other than a handful of guys who serve as at-large DDGMs, it's at the district level. It's a 1 year thing. That's it. Serve a year, and then the next guy comes on, and it's always the fun guessing game, right?
Right.
Who's going to be our deputy this year? And of course, nobody is supposed to know.
Yeah.
And well, here's my question: why wouldn't you, as a current district deputy grandmaster, why would you not want everybody in the district to know who your replacement's going to be for 2025?
Yeah.
Why would you not want to know that or want that broadcast? It's not rhetorical. What do you think?
Right, and I have no idea why that would be.
Okay.
Frankly, I feel like, and we've talked about this before, where it seems, at least in my mind, that there are instances and situations where it would be advantageous for a local lodge to have a worshipful master serve multiple years. Same thing with the secretary, and secretary happens quite a bit.
Yeah.
But if you have an incoming worshipful master that has a long-term goal and is making progress towards that goal during his initial 1 year tenure, why would you not have that guy retain the office? And I could say that it would potentially be advantageous to have that same mindset in the DDGM position. If
the one thing that's very different about the DDGM is that he is serving a specific grandmaster. He is that grandmaster's personal representative. But going back to my original question of why would it not be a good thing to know who the 2025 guy is, and there are probably other reasons than this, but the biggest reason that I can give is that if I'm a current DDGM, and I have 2 months left on my 2024 term, right?
Mm-hmm.
If the new guy, if my replacement gets announced, then there's in some districts more likely than others the chance that some of the guys are going to go to my replacement. I'm hate to call it a lame duck time, but that's almost what we have.
That actually is somewhat appropriate.
It is. So would it be a good thing for guys to start going to the 2025 guy to start getting their things lined out ahead of time? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It does make sense. I think that if you're talking to the incoming rather than the outgoing, I feel like as was mentioned earlier, you're kind of jumping that chain of command. You should be talking to the current guy. The current guy should then be talking with his replacement and going, these are things that are these are going to cross over. These issues are going to cross over from my tenure to yours.
Yeah.
And this is something that you should be aware of.
I think what we need to address here is, like, if there is an issue, then absolutely it should be brought up to the current district deputy. However, in terms of planning, I don't see a disadvantage of going ahead and being able to reach out to the incoming district deputy and running things by, just for transition's sake and for planning's sake. But you're not bypassing. You're not jumping the gun. I don't think. You're just. I think planning is different than, because if you're the district deputy and you're out in 2 months, I mean, really, what planning is there that we need to do? Let's start talking. If anything, maybe have like a 3-way conversation. Have the current and the incoming, and then you can start planning. That way, if there's anything that the current district deputy is aware of, some wisdom they can impart that maybe the incoming district deputy hadn't been trained on or briefed yet or just doesn't know about, then at least he's in the know. I was also going to say, I don't know how often this is really the case, but if you have a district deputy and they aren't aware of who's incoming, which, okay, but if they aren't aware, then it kind of makes for a cold transition. However, if it wasn't such a secret, then the current district deputy, once the incoming district deputy is aware of his appointment that he'll receive, he can start transitioning him. They can start working together, and the current district deputy can be like, hey, this is what has happened during my year. These are the things you need to be aware of. This is, and just kind of preparing him. Granted, I know that there's training and everything for the district deputy. I've never done it, but I know it's a thing. However, I think also just having someone in your district that you can work with that can prepare you, because the training is great, but the training won't address individual issues in the district. What's up, Jason? Jason, hello?
Oh, sorry. Has it been ever stated as to why it's supposed to be such a secret? As there's a reason why they are. I mean, I will tell you, it's kind of an open secret many times, but it's supposed to be, you know, so secret, and nobody's supposed to know. But I've never heard a good explanation as to why that would be. Um, and I know everybody hates me talking about the Elks, but
They're sitting
in
here, it's fine.
with what they do here, at least in Texas, it's a 7-year progressive line to get to district deputy. So starting at 3 years out, you are part of the district team that goes around to all the lodges. So by the time you're district deputy, you've visited all of those lodges on an official visit, whether you are the district vice president, the auditor, the district esquire, and then the district deputy. So I mean, they know, we know years ahead of time who the district deputy is probably going to be. It's always up to the grand exalted ruler, but it's part of, they really actually know the lodges as they go around. It's just I've always found it a little bit bizarre that it's like, oh, and nobody's supposed to know who the incoming district deputy is, and it was like, I've never been, it's never been explained, at least to me, maybe somebody else, but as to why it's such a secret.
Yeah, I'm not aware either. It's always been kind of a mystery to me. But from like a lodge parallel, the worshipful master is technically, he's supposed to be getting some kind of guidance from the junior past master, right? But he's also supposed to be preparing. Granted, I'm talking strictly from a progressive line perspective here, and I know that that's not always the best fit, but he should be preparing the senior warden or whoever the expected predecessor is, whether that turns out to be that way or not, for when he steps into the East. And so that's why I say I don't think, granted, in context of our conversation earlier about going over people's heads and things like that, we should always be mindful of that. However, I don't feel like planning conflicts with that. I don't feel like planning is about going over anybody's head or anything, because I think the district deputy is there for a very specific role, and you should definitely leverage him during his year. But if I am, say, like a senior warden, and I want to plan things for the next year, and I'm aware of who the next district deputy is going to be, we can start having those conversations. That way, if there's going to be any issues from this, or if there's anything I need to be sure, any boxes I need to be sure need to have checked for my plans for the year or anything like that, I have it ready to go, and the incoming district deputy is aware of it, and it makes for a smoother transition. I don't know. I'm sure that there is a logical reason, and maybe Cody knows. There's a logical reason why this is not supposed to be communicated. Like someone said, though, it's usually a pretty open secret. At least at some lodges I've been to. Right? I'm not saying any of my lodges, but some lodges I've visited before. It's a pretty open secret. So I'm not sure really what the benefit is of all the secrecy.
Justin, there's one other thing I want to bring up, almost a humorous note, though not humorous to this guy. Several years ago, we had a guy who, about this time of year, October, November, saw something going on in one of the lodges in his district,
Mm-hmm.
and he stood up and announced for the entire lodge to hear this. Well, next year, when I'm district deputy, this is not going to be going on. And of course, that got back to the deputy grand master very quickly. Nothing travels faster than bad news, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he was uninvited to play. And almost every year, for one reason or another, there's at least 1, 2, or 3 guys who get unappointed, uninvited to play. And I don't remember the last time that we didn't have one. We've been doing the badges for Grand Lodge since Jerry Martin's year, 2014. And almost always, or maybe always, every time, there's been somebody, for some reason, do something or say something stupid like that gets him unappointed, uninvited to play.
Mm-hmm.
And I can see that, if you're going to, as the example that you gave, if you're going to stand up in a lodge meeting and go, well, next year, yeah, that's not kosher at all. Mm-hmm. But I feel like they're, maybe not a hard step-by-step mechanism, but there needs to be a mechanism by which an incoming DDGM can meet with the outgoing DDGM and make sure that the incoming guy knows what issues are present in his district, and is aware of what may be needed within his district, so that he can hit the ground running rather than being blindsided. Like, I'm sure that there are some guys who have been, hey, I get to be DDGM this year. Right on. That's going to be cool. I'm going to get a cool title and a neat apron, and they're going to have to, address me as this and that. And, and then they walk in and it turns into a, for lack of a better phrase, a cluster, what?
Yeah.
And craziness is going on. So, how do we make sure that doesn't happen within the, unwritten, whatever written rule where the incoming DDGM is more or less anonymous until installation?
Yep. And part of it is simply not stealing the thunder of the current guy. Mm-hmm. We don't want his term to be his effective term to be from that third week of January until most of the time these appointments have been made back in letters would have gone out in around May or June. Mm-hmm. For the next Grand Lodge year. So, I mean, it's out there. So there's a potential for undermining the authority of the current DDGM. And that's part of it. It's just out of respect for him. Mm-hmm. And thankfully, Byron, there are very few of the guys who walk around with that, apron and name tag and that title, who just really get the big head about it. Look at me, I'm the district deputy. What you are is something, Justin, you and Dennis have said this a million times. It's servant leadership.
Absolutely.
Right.
You're there to serve. specifically serve the Grand Master, but you're his eyes and ears at the district level. It's even though it is an honorary position, it's not something in name only. Shouldn't be. It should be an opportunity to serve and to make things better. It should never be about me, ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it should always be about the local group.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I really didn't mean for it to, for my comment earlier to start a fireball or anything with the name badge season, but
Oh, no. And I never took it that way, at least.
Yeah. No, it's a worthwhile conversation, I think.
It is, and maybe somebody. This might be a good opportunity for someone like Right Worshipful Rumsey or one of the other Grand Line members to come in and address this very thing. What are the reasons that this is kept so hush hush?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's certainly a question worth asking.
I agree.
At that level, I don't know anybody at that level of Grand Lodge, other than maybe you. But
I'm not. I'm not a Grand Lodge officer or anything.
Right. But the kicker for me is whenever you have an organization even slightly similar to Freemasonry, you're always going to have folks who are interested in, being called by a different title than everyone else. And that leads to, in some instances, the presence of folks who are only interested in earning or receiving, being given whatever those titles.
Yep.
But when you, as you said, when you get to the point where you're really looking at honest to God servant leadership, then you start getting in the guys who are who are interested in doing the job and trying to be the best whatever that they can be, whether it's a district instructor or a DDGM or a president of an MWSA, call it whatever you want to. The trick is always to find that role that matters to you, that role that inspires you to be better.
Yep.
At least that's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
And that's just my opinion.
To kind of circle back to what Cody said earlier about sometimes people getting unappointed, I always thought that was just kind of probably one of the reasons, like, you're not supposed to disclose that, because your appointment in most cases to district deputy is assuming that tradition at Grand Lodge will prevail, and that whoever you're supposed to serve will get elected at Grand Lodge. And again, like, if you have been talking about it and if it's common knowledge, and whoever was supposed to go to the Grand East doesn't go to the Grand East, suddenly it's possible that you're not that person anymore. You're not district deputy anymore. Granted, I mean, how often does that happen? It happened this year,
Once.
but how often does that really happen? And even in that case, Most Worshipful was still thoughtful and mindful enough to keep those appointments. So it's a possibility. It's always a possibility. You could get someone that isn't really expected to get elected, and he has his own appointments that no one has talked about or like isn't known, but it's a possibility. But I always felt like that was probably one of the big reasons, because it's your appointment is based off of assumptions until elections happen at Grand Lodge. But I don't know if that's really the case or not.
Good point.
Yep.
Very good point.
Yeah.
I hope that we never ever see what we saw at Grand Lodge in 2024.
Agreed.
I hope we never see that happen again. But one of the great things that Most Worshipful Chapman did was tell all of the guys that Right Worshipful Henderson had appointed that if they wanted to serve in that capacity, they are still welcome to do so.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there were a couple who declined, but for the most part, everybody stayed.
Yeah, because my district deputy, when it all happened, he told me after the fact, is like, I'm just like, what do I do? What's happening now? So
Yep.
I could understand coming from that position and that happening. You're just like, oh, well, what happens? So it was very tasteful and very good that he kept those appointments and gave him that opportunity
Yes.
still.
And personally speaking, he is a man of extremely high integrity. I think we all have something to learn from Most Worshipful Tommy Chapman.
Mm-hmm.
He is a great man. He is a great man, and I have a ton of respect for him, not just as a Mason, but as a man, as a leader, and as a personal friend. Mm-hmm. I think the world of him. So it didn't surprise me when he did that.
I unfortunately have never had the opportunity to interact with Most Worshipful. I've always heard great things. I know he's a great person, and everyone I ever speak with never has anything but positive things to say about him. But I have not had the opportunity to meet him and speak with him before. So yeah, but that's right in line with what I've always heard about him. He's just a fantastic individual. We're very fortunate to have him.
He is.
Yep.
Yep.
So, you know who we haven't heard from yet tonight? What are you doing there, Jeff?
Hanging out and listening to Texas Masonic politics.
Are you not entertained?
Just like politics in general, I just have to say we live in interesting times. So.
Yeah, roger that.
Do you have service teams or anything in your jurisdiction? Do you have like a representative of your Grand Master or instructors or anything like that?
Yeah, we do. We have lecturers. We have deputy district Grand Masters who are responsible for certain districts. And, yeah, we have everything you're talking about. Is very familiar.
Got you. Is it per district? So you have a different lecturer per district, or?
I don't know about lecturer per district. I know this district deputy. I know that.
What does the lecturer do?
I guess fidelity to ritual.
Okay. They're not going around giving
would that be like roughly analogous to our committee on work?
Could be. I'm not even sure I'm speaking correctly on Kansas because I've only been a Master Mason for a month. So.
Well, okay.
Oh wow.
Fair enough.
I'm not going to speak authoritatively on anything.
We'll give you a pass.
We'll cut you some slack then. So a lot of grand jurisdictions have the district deputy grand lecturers, and I don't remember if Kansas is one of those. I'm not 100% sure what the DDGL does, but those guys typically stay in their position for. In the Grand Lodge of Mississippi has we do badges for them as well, and we've had several 10-year district deputy grand lecturer badges that we've done for them. So Jeff, you're saying you don't know whether that's something that you guys have?
No, I don't. No, not as far as lecturers go.
Okay.
Interesting.
There you are. There's that handsome
there
face.
He is.
Hey, right on.
It's always interesting to me how different jurisdictions are set up by district, and also just at their Grand Lodge level, how they function and how they do things. I'm a nerd for things like that, though. I like to see the structure of things and how they do it.
So I had an interesting experience a few years ago. I was traveling for work one time, traveling for pleasure another, and got to go to lodges in two different states, Louisiana and Nevada specifically. And the work was different in each of those states, like significantly so from Texas. Not so much that I felt like I was in a, in a clandestine lodge or anything, because I did my research before I went and visited these lodges and made sure that we were in amity with all of them. But the wording for the opening and closing of lodge was somewhat different in each. The ceremony was somewhat different in each. And it really got me to thinking about, man, how cool would it be to do like a real deep dive into the origins and the nature. No, nature is the wrong word. The origins and the evolution of the work. Mm-hmm. How do you trace work in Texas back to, because our charter originated with Louisiana, right? Where did Louisiana's charter originate from? How do we, how does the work evolve from Texas back to Louisiana, back to wherever Louisiana got theirs, and eventually going all the way back to the Grand Lodge of England, or the United Grand Lodge of England? That to me seems like a fun but incredibly time-consuming research project.
Well, what's interesting about
Louisiana, here I am. Sorry, I was watching Wicked. I didn't realize it was going to run so late. But here I is.
In the dark.
Louisiana got their do what?
You're just a black screen. Go ahead.
Well, that's because I want it that way.
Oh, okay.
It's because it's dark there.
You turn it back off. Sorry.
Louisiana. So fun fact. So I don't know if everybody knows, but before Pennsylvania became their own grand jurisdiction, they were one of the only Grand Lodges directly descendant from the United Grand Lodge of England, and they held their charter under the United Grand Lodge of England until they finally decided to become their own Grand Lodge. They were a Grand Lodge, but it was under the Grand Lodge of England then. And so Louisiana is a direct from Pennsylvania, and we are from Louisiana. That's
You got choppy, but you said Louisiana got theirs from Pennsylvania?
the outline fence. That's how we got to who we are. But an interest, but do what?
So you're saying Louisiana got their charter from Pennsylvania?
Yes, and we got ours from Louisiana. And what's interesting, and the reason I know this, I was talking to Pete Norman about this, and I was talking to him about the rods and staffs and stuff like that, and the differences and where they come from, and then we got into this discussion about the moderns and the ancients, and I was thinking, well, you've got the F and AM and the AF and AM, and I was thinking, like most people do, is that the F and AM was the moderns and that AF and AM was the ancients, and he said that's actually just not so, because and then he gave that lineage for me to understand that really it's just a choice by whatever grand jurisdiction it is, because Pennsylvania was F and AM, and then Louisiana was F and AM, and here we are direct descendants of Louisiana and chose to be AF and AM. It's all just a title that's decided by the grand jurisdictions. But but it was a great rabbit hole that I took with Pete, and it just so happened that that's one of the nuggets that I learned from him was that right there that you were talking about.
Interesting. What did he tell you about the staves and the rods? Related
so
to Texas.
In relation to Texas, or just the use of them in general?
Well, The reason I ask is I heard an origin story as to why the stewards don't carry them around. So I was curious if he told you anything like that.
Go ahead.
I don't know the cities or anything, and I was told by, it might be wrong, but the brother that shared it with me, he's pretty well read, but during the Texas Mexican War, there was a town in South Texas, and the Mexicans were coming, the army was coming, and so they were trying to evacuate the town, and the lodge there was being evacuated, and they were trying to get everything out of there. However, the rods, or the staves, whatever you'll call them, would not fit in the saddlebags. So they broke the heads off and took them and put them in a saddlebag, and then they were able to leave. But they didn't have the functioning staves or anything, which is why today the stewards don't have any. It might actually be the deacons, but one of the two, or maybe all of them, don't have any actual role with those in opening and closing because we didn't have them for a long time. So we just kind of, just for whatever reasons, never re-implemented that.
Well, from what I understand, through our discussions, is that the oh my goodness, I wish I had the documentation in front of me, the emails going back and forth so I could be precise on this. But basically, there was, as the monitors were rewritten, there came a point that the staffs were left out of the monitor, and that's when they stopped having their usefulness. I don't know that that story with Texas is true or not. I just don't know. But I do know that that through the years, they lost their usefulness due to being left out of one of the monitors. And then I think it was, oh my goodness, I can't remember which one comes first, Webb or Anderson. I think Anderson came first, and I think Anderson left it out of his monitor, and then Webb just followed suit after Anderson and left it out of his as well, and then it just kept going.
Yeah, I can see that
where it was there all up until a certain point, and then just wasn't. And I think that's what happened.
Both make total sense to me.
Now, another interesting point that we had talked about was the fact that back in the day, the stewards and and I mean way back in the day, the stewards and the deacons did have a bigger role in lodges in which they were. Oh gosh, I really don't want to misquote Pete Norman because I can get in serious trouble for that.
Well, we kind of talked a little bit about this last week.
Anyone who knows Pete Norman knows exactly what I'm talking about. This is closed Inner Circle, right?
No, this is live. We're live.
Oh, we went live after all?
Yeah.
I apologize. I thought we were going closed Inner Circle, so I didn't even worry about it until after the movie.
Oh, it's all good, man. It's all good.
So, yeah, I definitely don't want to speculate then with it going live. I'm definitely not going to make that mistake.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just
going to make a joke.
Hey, that's my job here. Now, where you at?
No, only the bad jokes are your job.
Oh,
Anybody
okay.
else are free to make jokes.
Oh, okay. In that case, so is it safe to assume that the senior and junior stewards were the guys who owned the green bean farms? I don't know if that qualifies as a good joke or not, but yeah.
Now, it is interesting though that the rods were always a symbol of authority, and so the stewards did have the authority over the household. Basically, they had, you know, the authority over the refreshment,
Mm-hmm.
and then the deacons had authority over the craft during labor.
Who was over
What
the
what's
stewards?
So the junior warden is over the stewards. That's why they're on either side of them,
Yeah.
because that's who's over the stewards, and then the senior warden's over the deacons. Now, what's interesting is that, you know, back in the day, that old, when you're doing a table lodge or whatever, and even in the Scottish Rite, they say everything is good in my column, everything is good in my column.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they do it with the senior and junior wardens in a table lodge, but ultimately that used to be the senior and the senior deacon and the senior steward that would make those statements,
Interesting.
that they were actually over the craft way back when.
Yeah, I got into the kind of a debate with somebody a few years ago about the role of junior warden. For that same reason, I was like, because the stewards on either side of him, and there's very specific verbiage that the junior warden refers to when he's kind of overseeing things, and it was interesting. But likewise, there's also the senior warden has direct say over the deacons during the same parts of the ritual. He can
Yes.
cause them to do things, and it's also referred to in one of the degrees. The senior warden specifically has the deacons do something. So yeah, that's. I'm just curious what your thoughts were on that, because I felt the same way.
Well, and it's the duty of the senior warden to assist the master, right? That's his duty, is to assist the master.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't say everybody else is to assist the master. And if you think about what the duty of the senior and junior deacons are, that follows suit with the job of the senior warden,
Yeah, absolutely.
because they carry different things
Well, it's like a chain of
to
command situation.
to the craft.
Yeah,
to the
it's like
craft.
delegating basically.
So in
Right.
Texas,
Well,
in Texas, your stewards don't have staffs.
Well, they have
they
them, they just
have
don't
them.
carry them.
They're just not used.
Yeah.
And the senior deacons are the deacon staffs are only used in receiving grand honors, or giving grand honors to Grand Lodge officers.
Yeah.
Well, they carry them,
Whereas,
like I know, like I just did a senior steward thing today, and I had a task to do during opening, and I carried the
right, they
carried
don't
the
do
staff.
that.
You don't
Yeah,
carry your
they don't
staff
do
when you do
that
that.
here.
No.
Right. So yours carries it and guards it as they're actually doing all the work, and then holds it a certain way, and in some jurisdictions they actually hit the floor when they make each corner, but not in Texas.
Yeah, that was one of the glaring differences when I visited in Louisiana, is that the staffs were very much an integral part of opening and closing their lodge.
Interesting.
Yes, and in New Mexico they are as well, and they're even, the stewards are involved, and they're actually involved in a degree as well.
Oh wow,
That's
cool.
cool.
I know
And
in Kansas,
Colorado.
the senior steward, as part of the duties for opening, crosses over into no man's land. And we had some brothers visiting from another state. They about had a cow when they saw that.
Oh wow.
That's interesting. I would like to see that one day.
Like, and there we go. There's the rabbit hole that I really don't need to go down, but I really, really want to go down.
Well, and that's something that has always kind of irked me when you see, somebody will post something online and then about something specific that happened during their lodge, or they were, this position and they did this, and then somebody will jump on, well, that's not how it's supposed to be, and then you get like 40 different people like, well, no, that's not right. You can't do. And it's like, well, hang on. We're in the United States alone. We're at least 50 different Grand Lodges. Like each
Yep.
Grand Lodge has their own set of traditions. So what may not be allowed, it'd be like somebody going from Texas going to another state and going, why are you guys touching those rods? You're not supposed to touch those rods. That's against it. And you're like, well, no, like, just because we don't, it's a different Grand Lodge. Like, shut up.
And in reality, we were to take that away, it would so much away from the craft, because originally the different lodges, they had different nuances to their degrees, and they were writing their own degrees back before there was a unified Grand Lodge of England. And I feel a little bit of listening on to that heritage by having those differences that we can learn from in different jurisdictions and stuff like that. I like that about the differences of the jurisdictions.
Well, do we really have enough people that are knowledgeable enough to write things like that anymore?
That's a very good question.
Oh,
The Blue Lodge degrees, and we've hit on this before, they were written by people that are very knowledgeable about a whole lot of different things. And we got knowledgeable brothers, but can they make something as deep as those degrees? I've seen a lot of degrees. Some of them are more remarkable than others. Some are way less remarkable.
Oh, I can tell you the degrees that were made up in the 70s and 80s suck.
For which ones would those be?
The ones that you'll see at a certain day in June. If there's a certain past Grand Master present to confer it on you. I'm sorry. I just had to say it. I was not at all impressed.
Well, if we're talking about the same thing, some of those are pretty old, supposedly. But there are some that are also very...
Not the one that I'm talking about.
Oh, okay. But there are some that are very remarkable, and it's just like, I don't know. So
I think we do have people that are able to do it. I think the problem is that at this point in our journey, they would be ostracized for trying it or doing it and called clandestine and kicked out of Masonry because of the people who are closed-minded to the deeper meaning in Freemasonry.
Yeah.
The surface level brothers would have pitchforks and torches.
Well, the thing is, the degrees we have today exist because that's what somebody did, and they were popular, and people enjoyed them. There was value in them, and they got value from it. I'm sure there's countless degrees that have been written for millennia that just didn't hit the mark, and so they're forgotten. I mean, that's the whole non-Masons and AMD. Those are all degrees that were supposedly just cast aside for whatever reason. So there's lots of examples of degrees that for whatever reason they're okay or they're enjoyable, but they're not like as impactful as
they're not profound.
They're not as profound. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of the chivalric degrees that I've seen are very not very profound.
No.
In my opinion, because it's all about this, it's kind of like the quest for the Holy Grail or whatever, and everybody knows the Holy Grail isn't an actual physical thing, but that's the degree, that's not. I'm not saying that that's a degree. I'm just saying that for instance, take something as insignificant as that and call it a degree because it's chivalric.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm not into all that kind of stuff. I'm into the deeper philosophical
Well, even
degrees.
even like commandery, like the only degree I really enjoyed was the Order of the Temple. I thought Order of the Temple's a good degree, but I'm not huge. I was actually thinking about this the other day because I was thinking about the master's degree, but this applies to commandery also. We spend all this time building up this. Hey, we're not a Christian organization. We're not satanic for any of the paranoid people out there, but we don't specify what your faith has to be. You just have to have a faith in a higher power, a faith in deity. And then you get to commandery, and it's like, oh no, this is Christian Freemasonry right here. And you can say it, you can split it however you want. You can say, well, you just have to, you know how they always try to spin it, but it's what it is. It's Christian Freemasonry.
Yeah, you just have to. You just have to acknowledge Jesus. You don't have to make an oath to him. No, you're making an obligation.
Yeah, you're
You're
splitting
not just
hairs.
acknowledging.
Yeah, trying to
Yeah.
encourage people to join.
You're doing that just to boost membership.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was also thinking about that in context of the master's lecture, like towards the end. It always felt like someone came in, and I'm not going to specify the lecture here, but it always felt like someone came in, like the last 3 paragraphs, said like, hey, skulls are scary, right? So let's just put a whole bunch of Christian stuff in here, just to kind of like cover that up, and
Well,
it feels very out of place compared to
the
everything
reality,
else.
the reality though is that all 3 of the degrees are very Christian oriented. However, now that's with an asterisk because it's not the Christianity that most people believe, and that's where we have to leave it on this show.
Yeah,
It's
well,
just
I can
that
see
with
that
an
in
asterisk.
that context.
But it, my EA walking lecture.
You broke up for a second. What'd you say?
Did I talk to you about my EA walking lecture?
Is that not what you gave at Roy City?
Yes, but did I tell you where the origins are
No.
definitely from by going through all that kind of stuff? Okay, well, I'll have to tell you another time when we're off the air.
Is this related at all to the presentation we heard in College Station?
Oh, wait. Were you?
Because I was at that festival board with you, with Kyle.
Oh, with Kyle.
Yeah.
Very similar.
Okay.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes. Yeah. Whoa! I almost swerved off the road. I got the girls with me. I can't do that.
Nah, bad things, man.
So it is Christian in nature with an asterisk. Now you understand why.
Got you. Okay. Say no more. But yeah, in that context,
when you start off the degree and you walk in between
Mm-hmm.
and you become that third part of what you're in between, then that immediately shows you that it's not exactly what people think it is.
No, that's exactly like what I was saying. Like the people that wrote these degrees, they had there are things that happen in the degrees that people have spent their entire lives as Freemasons and weren't aware actually happened, because they don't study things like that. But yeah,
Right.
see what you mean.
Which there's all kinds of Masons, right? And we're all at different points in our journey. So what somebody might understand today is going to be different from what they understand tomorrow, hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully people that listen to our show will say, hey, what the heck are they talking about? There's nothing more to this. And then they start reading and realize, oh, there's something more to this.
Yeah.
So hopefully that happens.
Well, I mean, you could start studying this stuff and say, well, I don't see how this has any value or applies anything. However, the fact is, if you start studying it, you'll see like, hey, this is baked into the degrees. Why, if it means
Yes.
nothing, why, if it has no value, did people go through the effort of incorporating all this stuff that unless you know it, unless it's like looking at a crossword, right? Unless I know the language that the crossword is in, I don't know where the words are. But once you have start looking into it, it's very apparent. So why would it be there if it has no value?
Right. Well, and that's also the very reason why it is true that there's no higher degree than a master mason, because once you go through the 3 degrees, if you truly studied them, which will take a lifetime,
Hmm.
then you would never need any other degree. You would never need it,
That's true.
because each one of them has such depth that most masons will never touch. And even I haven't come close. I'm still in the kiddie pool compared to some people. Fortunately, I surround myself with people that are in the deep end.
Hmm.
So hopefully I'll be able to take the waders off, right? I take the little balloons off my arms and get to go into the deep end with those guys
So
someday.
The Scottish Rite degrees have been my favorite since I've taken my Blue Lush degrees. However,
Yes.
even in that context, even the things they teach you, specifically like the fourth degree, right? Like they go right into the rabbit hole. However,
Yes.
I feel like these are beautiful degrees and they have value, but you need to learn these because you need to take them back and
Yes.
look at the original 3 degrees through a new lens, through a new perspective.
Yes. That's exactly right. That's why it's the university. It's just like in regular school. You don't throw away mathematics because you're in shit. I just drew a blank, because you're in trigonometry in college or whatever. I guess that's middle school nowadays. But because you're in whatever in college, you don't throw away the basic mathematics, because they're still there,
Yeah,
and it's still present in everything else that you do. And you're right. Once you go through those other degrees, you start seeing the real value in, and you don't really see that in the York Rite, but you do see it in the
I
Scottish Rite.
agree. I agree. Well, going to your analogy, like algebra, for example, it's great, but you can't dismiss it once you learn geometry or trigonometry or calculus. Um, but
Calculus, that's what I was
but
thinking.
even with that said, when you start studying geometry and trig and calculus and all these higher maths, you start seeing patterns and things that you
Yes,
can
you see
take
the real
back.
genius in regular
You
mathematics.
take back, yeah, you see the real genius in the regular mathematics, and so they make you better at regular math, as silly as it sounds,
Yes.
because once you start studying the spatial relationships and everything with geometry and to an extent trigonometry, and then you get like really deep in the weeds with calculus, and then you go back and doing regular algebra, it's like, oh, this is why we do like this makes sense, oh, this is analogous to this, things that you wouldn't have connected the dots on if you had never studied higher levels of math, right? And it's the same thing with the first 2 degrees. And I'm not saying you have to go Scottish Rite. I'm not saying you have to do any of these higher degrees. But what you do have to do is start applying the lessons that were taught. And I always say this: the lessons that were taught in your fellowcraft degree. I think the Scottish Rite degrees really kind of laser focus you specifically on things you should study within the several liberal arts and sciences. However, it's all there in the fellowcraft, and if
Oh
you
yeah.
do that with earnest, you don't ever need another degree. I still think
That's
there's
why the
value
fellow
in
craft's my favorite degree.
mine too.
I I think that if the masters wasn't there, I would still feel complete as a mason, because my job is to seek out the liberal arts and sciences to get closer to God.
Yeah,
And if I'm doing that, then I'm doing something right.
if I'm going to be kind of contentious here, however, I don't. The EA has a purpose. It has a very specific purpose. The Fellowcraft
Yes.
has a very specific purpose. I don't see the value, me personally. I don't see the deep value that the Masters really provides. And you could say, well, it's to reflect on this. Well, yeah, but there have been paintings of that for thousands of years. It didn't deserve its own degree necessarily. I agree. Like if you, and let's be honest, for a long time it was just the first 2 degrees. But I think the EA has very important lessons that teaches you really important things as a man, things you should do to prepare yourself to learn the lessons of the Fellowcraft degree. And I understand why there's a 3rd degree. I mean, people love things in 3s. I understand the whole representation that we can go into off the air, like what it represents and what all the other degrees represent. But is it necessary? Is it conveying something like deep and profound? I don't feel like it is. Me personally, I would love to be proven wrong.
I think that the Masters is, so think of the Fellowcraft as like the completion of the books of the Bible, right? And then the Masters is like the oh crap, shows you how much I read the Bible. The damn it, the talk about end times, what's that called?
Revelations.
I never read that. Yeah, I never read that book. So Revelations, I need to actually, now that I've
Have you read
learned
the
a
book
bunch
of
of other
Enoch?
stuff.
Have you read the Book of Enoch?
The Book of Enoch.
Yeah. I was gonna say, if you've read that, you can read Revelations.
Right.
If you can read Albert Pike, you can read Revelations, and it makes sense.
Right. But what I was going to say though is it's like the master's degree is kind of like Revelations. You're not going to know until you're there, and you're not going to understand it until you're there. And I think that represents our next real rite of passage, which is ultimately death. That's our next real rite of passage in this journey, because no one really knows what's going to happen on the other side of that light until it goes dark.
Yeah.
Right? That's my personal feeling. That it's kind of like it's kind of like a prophetic revelation story. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, there's somebody driving around with a lit up Santa in their freaking truck.
Hey, watch where you're going, mister.
Only in South Texas.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Must be in Houston.
No, this is Goliad.
Okay.
The thriving metropolis of Goliad.
Man, that'd be distracting having that much light in my truck.
It was in the back seat.
Oh, okay. That's funny. But yeah, that's
would you drive around with a big old lit up Jesus in your truck? I mean, why would you drive around with a lit up Santa Claus in your truck? The one time while you're looking at people, one time I did drive around with a big old black Buddha in my car when I had tinted windows so that I could drive through the HOV lane in Dallas.
You did what?
That's just wrong. That's cheating, mister.
I know. I had a statue of Buddha that was about the same height as me. Mm-hmm. That I had in my passenger seat so that I could drive in the HOV lane in Dallas. Wow. And I finally got caught after like 2 years.
The Buddha
it was
not
awesome. And I did not get in trouble because it was Buddha.
Wow.
I know, that's crazy, huh? True story.
I don't think any of us doubted that you would do that. There was no doubt.
and everyone else out there, all of a sudden a light bulb goes off. Ching! What do I have in my garage that I can put up? Maybe I have a Santa Claus. I just won't light him up.
That's funny. Well, it's been some interesting conversation. Anyone else have anything on their minds? Let's keep it going.
Yeah, let's. Now that I've ruined it all.
Oh, I don't know about ruined, but it's definitely taken a weird turn.
We were talking about how some of these symbols, I think we talked about last Sunday, some of the symbols that we study in like Western esotericism is common throughout the world. Like it's represented somewhere. And you're talking about you went and saw Wicked, right? So you got a good witch and an evil witch, and it's all about well, even look at like your traditional Wizard of Oz. You had the evil witch, and then you had the good witch.
Oh, you want me to give a spoiler alert?
But what did Dorothy represent in that?
Dorothy wasn't in this one.
Well, I'm talking about
it
like
was
the traditional
just,
Wizard of Oz. Like, like what did she come?
Well, but
go ahead.
But I know something you wouldn't have known until you see the movie.
What's that? Because I won't see the movie, so just you can spoil it all you want.
The good witch represents the man, and the evil witch, the wicked witch, represents the people like us. That's all I'm gonna say.
By the man, you
now
mean
everybody's
like
gonna have to go see it.
By the man, you mean like the establishment?
Yes.
I could see that based off the trailers.
Go along to get along.
Yeah, I could see that. I thought you meant like masculine energy or something. I thought you were going to go deep with us for a second.
Oh, no. I'm not going to ruin the movie for you.
I think it's pretty ruined. It's okay.
It's pretty awesome. It was a good movie, man. I freaking cried like a baby.
From Wicked?
Yes.
Okay.
I happen to love my kids. I cuddle up and watch movies and cry with them.
Oh. Yeah, we watched Dragon Ball Z tonight. We're okay. That's what
You watched what?
That's what me and my kids watched. We watched King of the Hill and Dragon Ball Z. That's how we finish our night.
Oh, those are some Texas kids for crying out loud. I love them.
That's funny. I love King of the Hill.
Yeah.
I actually record that one still to this day.
Oh, really?
And I've seen them all. Yeah.
They're making new ones. They're making new ones.
Are they?
Yep. It's supposed to come out sometime. Kind of like Futurama. They keep bringing it back. They bring it back.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, there's that. Anyway, I was going to talk about the symbolism, the yin and the yang. Like it's the same concept. You have concepts like that all across the world. You have like good and evil, black and white, and they're made to represent some kind of balance. Like in Western esotericism, you have the middle column, but with Eastern, with the yin and yang, for example, it's just the whole design itself is made to represent balance.
Right.
But leave that poor dog alone, Jason. Quit bullying that puppy. That little puppy. Oh, that is a puppy. Where's your big dog? Oh, taking up the rest of the couch. Okay.
Doing like big dogs do.
Yeah.
Being comfy.
Yeah. Pretty much. He takes up about 2/3 of the couch.
Mm. That's funny.
Just leave me alone. Not you.
Well, I think that I think that I don't know, man. I'm kind of torn right now with with all kinds of matters of spirituality. I wouldn't say spirituality but of matters of religion. Because I really didn't know until, recently, all the differences in all the different Bibles and stuff. And I didn't realize that the Catholic Church had extra books in their Bible. And then the what is it? The Eastern Orthodox, they actually have a couple more.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Ethiopians have more than any of them.
Yeah.
Like all these extra books are popping up all over the place, and I think what it all boils down to is that there's a lot more authors to the Bible than what I realized, because I trusted people that were teaching me in my church.
Well, so I was going to say, you kind
and
of
I
brought up the
chose to
perfect
live with the
example.
blinders on.
But I was talking to someone recently. I won't say who it was because they've been on the show before, but a Baptist preacher, and we were driving. I was taking him home from lodge, and he's like, I believe the Bible is 100%, 100% the Word of God without any doubts at all. And I'm not trying to pull anyone away from their faith. You're welcome to believe whatever you want, but for the sake of conversation, which Bible are you talking about? And he's like, well, the Holy Bible. He's like, well, okay, but there's countless different interpretations.
Which Holy Bible?
Yeah, which...
You're an asshole.
I'm just trying to have a conversation. I'm like, well, which Holy Bible are you talking about? And I was thinking that same thing as you're saying. Is like, man, I'm being kind of a jerk for even asking this, but I'm pretty close with the guy. And so I'm like, so which Holy Bible are you talking about? He's like, well, they all say the same thing. They're all divinely inspired. It's like, well, they don't all say the same thing, and it really depends on which interpretation and which translation you're looking at, and
how divine it is.
yeah. And so I kind of left it there because I don't want to start anything. I don't want to because again, someone's faith is none of my business. But also, if you're going to try to proselytize to me, then I feel like I have a right to kind of maybe start asking some questions, some uncomfortable questions. But I left it at that. And
well, I have a hard time in my own house, and my wife knows where I stand on things, and she knows that I believe in God, and that I believe in the lessons of the Bible. I think that they're good lessons for us to learn.
Mm-hmm.
But the way she was raised Catholic, and she believes that the Bible is God breathed, and I just can't get on that wagon, man. I just can't do it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I even understand people being inspired by God, writing things and being inspired by God. I've written things and been inspired by God, but is it Bible worthy?
Yeah. Well,
I just
that YouTube
who
video,
decides what's Bible worthy and what's not?
That YouTube video you shared, you hit the nail on the head. Like, the people that wrote the books aren't necessarily who you think they are, and they're just. Yeah, I'm on the same page. I believe in God, and I'll be more specific. I believe there was a man named Jesus, and he was, I
believe that too.
And he
did great things.
He did great things, and he was the Son of God, right? Now, what does that mean? That's a whole other conversation. But I'm
a son of God too.
Yeah, me too. So
now, am I as in touch with God as Jesus probably was? Probably not.
Exactly.
I am not that close. However, I am a son, and I probably could be as close as Jesus if I was to apply myself. But I'm too ADD, I think.
Well, I don't know. I think it's kind of like the whole Buddha. Like, there was probably someone that was a Buddha. They were also probably very wise, and people for a very long time have tried to reach that same level of wisdom. to no avail. Have they been wise? Of course. And to the same token, there was a man named Jesus. He was the Son of God. And he was very divinely inspired in everything he did. And there have been many people that have tried to walk in his footsteps, and there have been some really great followers of Christ out there. But have they been Jesus? No, of course not. And I think there are other great.
But shouldn't we all be striving for that? Isn't that the goal? Is that we should all be striving for that? Now, do I have to call myself a Christian? Absolutely not.
No.
Because I'm not prescribing to him being the ultimate part of my salvation. I'm sorry. I believe in him.
Yeah.
And that's a big, strong thing to say online in front of millions of people, is that I do consider myself a Christian, because that's where the bulk of my understanding of God comes from, right?
Yeah.
But sorry, I'm turning my truck back
That's
on
fine.
so I don't lose my.
It's like I went to
my
a funeral.
connection here.
I went to a funeral yesterday, and the preacher was saying, God doesn't send you to hell. You send yourselves to hell by not accepting Jesus as your Savior. And it's like, we spent a lot of time talking about what a loving God this is to have this one criteria where you're going to burn for eternity in hell with the unimaginable pain. But just remember, you're loved, right? It is like
and here's the flip side to that even if you are a full blown, Christ is the only way, Christianity is the only way, then you have to believe those final words of Jesus when he said, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do." So his last words were spoken in forgiveness of everyone, not just those who believe in him, but everyone, especially those who don't believe in him. And so there's your card right there. If you believe in Jesus, then there's your get out of jail free card right there.
Yeah.
But not that I'm trying to convert anybody to believe that, and I hope that our ratings don't go down the shitter because of what I've been saying. But I really do think that Jesus was a student of his upbringing, which was, he was Jewish.
Yeah.
And so Christianity is not Judaism. So, I mean, I'm sorry, we're all practicing the wrong faith if we all want to go where Jesus went.
Yeah. I've heard two different preachers say, one said Jesus was a Jew and another said Jesus was the first Christian. And Christianity didn't get invented, come about till quite a ways after. It was still, it formulated for a long time. It percolated before it became what it was.
Yes.
I mean, the original symbol was the fish, Pisces. It's all very interesting. But I was thinking about, you mentioned forgiveness, and I was thinking about the interview that we had last week, which will come out very soon, and some of the stuff that he was talking about. And I was thinking of that in context of one of the talks I give. I don't remember exactly what brought it up, but we have faith, hope, and charity, and faith and hope are very abstract things. You can't measure that, right? And I think that's why so many Masons go to charity. They don't focus so much on faith or hope, but we can do charity, and we can quantify that, and we can measure our success by that. But and I'm not going to we discussed before where originally charity was mistranslated. It's brotherly love. But as I was thinking today, it's like, really, what's the greatest extent of brotherly love is forgiveness, right? Like if someone is really your brother and you really love them, you're willing to forgive them. So the deepest, most profound way you can express agape or brotherly love for somebody is through forgiveness. And so
right,
we as Masons, and this once y'all listen to this interview that's coming out, it'll kind of click where I'm going with this. But like, we as Masons, I mean, we should all, like, brotherly love, obviously, like, love your brothers, but really the deepest way you can express that is through forgiveness of one another, and understand that we have all made mistakes, and we have all either made the mistakes that other brothers have made, or we will make those mistakes. And we have to be extra forgiving of one another, because first of all, we made that same mistake before, or we will make that mistake before. Now, granted, some mistakes are pretty great. We may not make them to the same extent as other people have, but we've all, in some capacity, have made something very similar. Were you like preach it, or were you like, I got something to say, Dennis?
I got something to say.
Okay, go ahead.
So, no, I'm definitely not telling you to preach it. Preach forgiveness.
Are you driving?
He's got
both hands.
No, we've actually stopped.
Okay.
My girls are in bed now, and I'm sitting outside in my truck finishing this show. Okay. No, what I was thinking is, and a lot of people don't want to hear this, but one of the strongest forms of forgiveness isn't even forgiveness. It's acceptance. How difficult is it to accept someone with their own beliefs as who they are? We're in a real tough time right now, to where we're being force-fed acceptance from a lot of different avenues, and it's really hard to take. I don't want to be forced to accept anything that I'm not ready to accept, right? But when it comes to brothers and what we're a part of, wouldn't acceptance be the more relevant word than forgiveness? Shouldn't we already accept them as being different and as being the bigger person, right? As being the more evolved Mason that we want to be? Wouldn't acceptance be the stronger word for what we're looking for within our brotherhood, is accepting of each other as who we are, and being willing to discuss those hard topics with each other and decide if that's who we still want to be afterwards?
Yeah, I have to agree. And
I lost you.
I have to agree that acceptance is probably the greatest expression, and I'm going to go ahead and call it, of love that is out there. Being able to not just accept someone who is different from me, but being able to love them as an individual at the same time, that is godliness.
There you go. Nice. And not just because you agree.
Well, what? Nah, we'll let that one drop. But no, it really is true, at least in my heart.
I was like, why is no one listening to me? No, you probably
I know we decided to zone you out. You are no longer a part of the discussion. You please forgive us on that.
I said earlier, like, I think acceptance is important. I don't know that it's more important than forgiveness, but I think it definitely has a major role in brotherly love, where you should accept your brother regardless of their viewpoints, religious, political, or otherwise, and accept them for who they are, and be willing to forgive any trespasses they make. But acceptance is very important. But also agree, like, acceptance.
Well, the reason I say, go ahead.
We shouldn't have forced acceptance, because some things that you can be forced to accept are kind of more man-made. I'll just put it that way. But as an educator, like, I've taught kids of all types of backgrounds, and I worked very closely with some of them doing like student council and UIL and stuff. And they are of a very different political perspective, a very different lifestyle than I choose to have for myself, but I accept them for who they are. Now, the second anyone tells me that I have to believe a certain way, I have an issue with that. But I'm very accepting, and I think we should all try to be accepting of people with different viewpoints. And I don't know. I don't feel that. I don't know. Forgiveness still plays a role, and you could feel that it's greater, and I mean that doesn't like we said earlier. Like, you can have different viewpoints, and I don't have to feel as though I'm being attacked, right? So if you feel like acceptance is greater than forgiveness, by all means, I mean, believe that. And I could see where you're coming from.
Well, here, just for discussion's sake, and here's the reason why I don't believe forgiveness is the way to go, because we have too many self-righteous people out there who feel like somebody wronged them just because they don't feel the same way as them. And, oh, but I'll forgive you, even though that person did nothing to cause harm to this person. They did nothing to hurt anybody. They're just being them. And some people feel like, well, I forgive you for, trespassing, when really they didn't trespass on anything. It's its own, percolated thing within one's own mind that makes one feel self-righteous. And so that's why I'm not such a fan of forgiveness, because I've seen it too many times where you get the self-righteous involved that think that anything you say or do that is in disagreement with how they believe, that they should forgive you for it. There's no forgiveness to be had. You believe different things.
Yeah.
You think differently. That's why I can't wrap my head around forgiveness being the greatest of all. I have to think that acceptance, and this is only for argument's sake, so that people understand where I'm coming from. It's not, and like you said, different people can believe different ways.
Yeah.
But that's why I believe the way I believe. If I'm going to say I believe a certain way, I have a reason to back it up.
Well, I was about to say that the difference is that forgiveness an unwillingness to forgive can eat away at your soul, right? But really, an unwillingness to accept other people can do the same thing. It can also do the same thing, because that leads to, both of them lead to hate. They both lead to the dark side, right? They both create hate. A lack of acceptance creates hate towards a wide range of people, or it can. An unwillingness to forgive is more targeted. So maybe I could see both sides. Maybe they're equal. I don't know. But the willingness to do both are essential. It was a parable, like hating someone is like holding a hot coal in your hand. Like, it doesn't hurt the other person, it hurts you. It's the same thing. Being unwilling to accept people. I'm not saying you. Here's the thing. I'm not saying you have to agree with somebody's way of life. I'm not saying.
I'm going to give you another analogy.
You have to agree with their religion, or you have to agree with their perspective on things. You don't have to agree with their beliefs, but are willing to accept them for who they. I'm not saying you have to accept their beliefs. I'm not saying you have to accept their politics or their religion or their lifestyle. I'm saying you have to accept them for who they are. That's the big difference. And forgiveness is when someone does something directly to you. Go ahead.
Well, I'm gonna give an analogy of my Nana. Since you're giving an analogy on acceptance, I'll give you an analogy on forgiveness. I forgive them gays for flaunting their stuff around in their own backyard, though she's the one that's looking through her own window in their backyard, worrying about what they're doing in their backyard in their short shorts and letting it all be exposed. But I forgive them gays for doing all this in their backyard. You know, that's what I'm saying is that, you know, we got too much of that mentality that someone is doing something against us
Spoken like a
just
true
because
Southern
it's something
Baptist.
that's right. Just because it's something we don't like.
I agree.
Oh my gosh. You gotta hear some of the stories about my nana and them gays. It's it's a wonder that I have any source of normalcy in my life at all. But you know, I am an evolved species for sure.
Yeah.
But that's the thing is that, you know, whereas I find acceptance with people, she would feel like it was her job to forgive them for being who they are instead of accepting them for who they. And that hurts me inside thinking that there's people out there that are still like that.
Forgiveness is like if someone lies to you, or they steal from you, or they punch you in the face. I need to forgive them for. Well, what's the Lord's Prayer? Forgive those who trespass. Forgive those who have trespassed against us.
Come on, Justin.
Forgive those who have trespassed against. Just like when I'm doing ritual. Just like when I'm doing ritual, I have to start at the very beginning. So, but basically, it's a. Yeah.
You'd be better off doing the sobriety prayer.
Forgive those who trespass against me as I forgive
those. The serenity prayer. Accept those.
Yeah, whatever. But it's the same. It's the same context. Like now, acceptance is just understanding that everyone has their own life to live. They're at different places on their life journey, right? And just because they've reached a different conclusion or they're at a different spot, doesn't mean that they're any less a person or have like doesn't mean their viewpoint is any less valid. It just means that I don't see it, but that's okay. I don't have to. Forgiveness is when something is done directly against you, I believe.
Right.
And that's that line from the Lord's Prayer. You know, forgiving those who trespass. It's a physical act.
Yeah.
It's, you know, it's a spoken word or you know, a fist in motion or you know, a hand reaching for something that doesn't belong to them. You know, that's a trespass.
Well, the intention in the mind. It's not. It doesn't even have to be a spoken word or anything, but just the actions that you make based off the intent in your mind, in their mind. I mean, you can tell by certain people the things that they do based off of hate, and you can tell. Even they can do it without saying a word, and it cuts you like a knife. And there's still reason to forgive. I think that it's in the intent that we're forgiving people on.
Yeah.
More than anything.
I think a good
which is an act, right? That's they're actively doing that in their mind.
I think a good way to kind of bring this back full circle is, you know, we were talking about Jesus earlier, and one thing that I always liked about the stories of Jesus is he did something that most Christians would not do, right? He put himself in the middle of the people that needed him the most. He didn't shy away from that, right? He didn't look at those gays in his backyard, right? He was in the backyard with them, because he accepted everybody. Did he accept what they did? No. Not by any means, but he accepted them for who they are and where they were. Not physically, but where they were in their lives. And
well, be careful how you phrase that, because it's not that he didn't accept gay people as who they are. Don't be careful how you phrase that, because that might sound like like he didn't accept them.
No, he accepted them, and
I
firmly believe that he accepted everybody, and
right.
But he also was there to. I don't know that.
Didn't accept certain people's actions.
Yeah, well, I mean, he was right between two thieves. Did he accept their actions? No.
Right. That's a better.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was.
And was, I don't know. I don't want to go like too deep down this rabbit hole, but is forgive did he forgive because he was God himself in the flesh, or did he forgive because it was important to do so? I don't know. I don't have the answer to that. But he did offer forgiveness, and he preached forgiveness, and he preached the importance of forgiveness. But if I'm being honest, deep down, just putting this out there, I believe Jesus was divinely inspired, but he was preaching about everybody's connection to God, how everybody is part of God, and I think that kind of got convoluted over time to represent something else, so it can create an establishment.
I
But
think it absolutely did.
I think that's what Jesus was teaching, and that's why he was teaching love and forgiveness and acceptance, because we are all we are all part of that divine light. And to hate another is to hate yourself. To not forgive another is to hold a grudge against yourself, because we are all part of that, and we will experience all those things at some point in our journey, and it may not be in our lives. It may be, I mean, if you want to, I mean, early Christians believed in reincarnation for probably for a reason. Um, but to give someone a hard time in this life is to give yourself a hard time somewhere down the road. And so to to love God is to love yourself, and to treat other people, the golden rule: treat people the way you want to be treated, because you will be treated that way one day. Did we lose somebody?
Well, it all boils. Do what?
Did we lose somebody?
I don't know. You didn't lose me.
Oh, okay.
Uh, Cody stepped out. He said he might be back, but
Oh, I just
no.
saw everything reshuffle, so I thought maybe somebody dipped out, but okay.
Ultimately, we are it going back to the fellowcraft degree. The liberal arts and sciences. Ultimately, that led up to physics as we know today. And if you know anything about physics, we are all energy, and we're all interconnected.
Hmm.
I mean, there's just no getting around it.
Yeah.
It's so, yeah, to hurt anyone is to hurt ourselves in all reality, and not just ourselves, but this earth that we live on, we're completely combined and connected to it as well.
Yeah. Well,
And the energy of the world is what's going to kill us. It's not any one act. I think Revelation is the energy of the world coming to a head.
even if you don't believe in the whole reincarnation thing, or even if you don't believe in the whole we are all God, just experiencing life through different perspectives thing, that's fine. But I don't think there's any denying, if somebody wrongs you and you punch them in the face, you feel better for a little bit, but you lose a part of yourself. And the more you wrong somebody, even if they wronged you first, um, the more you start to decline, the more you lose. I wouldn't say a little part of your soul, but just a little bit of what makes you good. And I mean, there's a reason why children are so good and innocent, and then by the time they're crusty old men like us, we're trying to seek that back. Like, how can we reobtain that, right? Because well we experienced a world that kind of broke us and beat us down, and it took that innocence away from us. And so it's
We also created a lot of that as well.
mhm.
It wasn't just the world that did it to us. We did it. We created it in the world.
Oh, absolutely.
There's something that many men much wiser than I have said for many hundreds of years before me,
Hmm.
but I can assure you that the things that keep me awake at night are the things that I did
Oh man,
to somebody else.
I
The things
was,
that I did to somebody else are the things that hurt me the most today.
yeah, I consider that too. And I was thinking about um, the other day, like if I had just grown up, listening to everything my dad and my granddad told me, and just lived my life based off what they had learned, I would, I mean, I would have way less trouble, right? I would have created way less problems for myself. But like you said, we create our own problems. We how boring would it be if I had just listened to everything they said, right?
Yeah, that's another
I
thing,
have to
because you
experience
really
it.
wouldn't understand that if you hadn't
Exactly.
felt the one thing, you wouldn't feel the depth of the other, and vice versa. And then once you need the to feel the hurt and depth of this to create the truer love that you feel today for somebody else.
Hmm.
It's it really is so cyclical in life.
Well, it's like we've talked about. Why does the hermit not come down from the mountain and just share his enlightenment with everybody? Because it has to be experienced firsthand. The road has to be traveled personally. It's a personal journey, and you cannot simply convey that. My granddad never drank beer because he said it makes you fat. Well, okay, 21-year-old me. Well, okay, whatever. And now, 41, I probably would have a few less pounds if I had listened to him, right?
There's a
But
reason I drink scotch and not
yeah,
beer.
it's one of those things you have to learn it. You have to experience it yourself. As Byron chugs one over there.
Right.
I'm not chugging. It is a sip,
Okay.
and it's not scotch yet.
But yeah, you're absolutely right, and I think that's part of the reason why do we all make the same mistakes as our parents and our grandparents? Because some things had to be lived, and why do they have to be lived? Well, because God or the universe or however you want to say that is experiencing these things, and what's the best way to experience something than doing it with a certain um, unawareness of your own nature, right? Because if you remembered everything you'd ever experienced, or if you knew if we really understood spiritually who or what we really were, that we would never do the things we do to ourselves or to each other, because we would understand how deeply everything really is entwined. But to learn the lessons that can only be conveyed through experience, where we allow ourselves to experience this roller coaster we call life.
And that's why we have to be more understanding towards each other, as and more especially our brothers, because we're not all on the same playing field, and we all enter the degrees on a different level to begin with. And then just because we go through the degrees, yeah, we're, you know, if you're looking at it as a stature standpoint, yeah, we're all on the same level. But the reality is we're still not on the same level, because we're going to accept the teachings at different times through our journey, as we go along. And when we surround ourselves with certain mentors, we're going to have a certain outcome. And the same thing, as much as I harp on folks that just focus on the ritual, well, it's the same thing on me just focusing on folks that think about the deeper meaning, the deeper esoteric meanings. I get less of the ritual. I know less of the ritual because of that, because I'm focused on this part instead of the other. And so there's things to be learned on both sides, and we just have to understand and accept that we're all on a different journey, and no matter what stage we're in, someday, if we stick with it, we'll probably get there.
Mm-hmm.
I was telling Pete that if it wasn't for brothers like him, that's the beauty of Freemasonry. I am a smarter man today because of knowing him. And I would have never known him if it wasn't for Freemasonry.
Absolutely.
And so that can be applied to each and every one of us.
Very good, guys. It's almost 11. Let's do our final thoughts. Since Dennis is sitting there in his
Yeah,
truck in the dark.
Yeah, my wife is probably cringing because I'm sitting there running my truck at idle.
So Jason, Jeff,
Gas mileage.
you have anything you'd like to add before we wrap up, or as a wrap up?
Hey, sometime we're going to have a members only Zoom, not open to the public.
Mhm.
That's
so you
what
can,
was supposed to happen tonight.
My bad. I thought we were planning to do it on a Wednesday one time. That's my
so you can tell me all these deep mysteries.
Yeah, we should definitely
We
do
have
that.
too many.
It's hard to
We
talk
have
about
too
some
many
things.
people lined up.
Yeah.
We can't. Hell, we're talking about having recordings on Sunday for some of the people because it's getting so crowded with people.
Yeah. But
Which, by the way, guys, the next one is going to be our Right Worshipful Brad Billings.
this Wednesday, right?
Do what? Yes, this
Yep.
Wednesday we're recording. Yes.
Yep. It's gonna be good. But yeah, I agree because there's been lots of times I had to stop myself from going too deep. So at some point we do need to do like a members only, just like an esoteric.
Yeah, and I went ahead and pushed the envelope a little bit.
It's all good. That's what
Pushed
we do.
it a little
That's how
too
we roll
far.
here. But yeah.
That's right.
Um,
Justin stays conservative, and Dennis just puts himself out there, just really condemning his future.
Jason, Byron, you got anything?
Victory Lodge has been having our guest speaker series, and the one for December will be timely. It'll be Robert Park, and he's not doing esoteric or symbolism. I have asked him specifically to talk about Grand Lodge law and procedures and stuff like that. So I'm gonna get with him soon because I think one of the directions I want to take is to hopefully the resolution are going to be coming out soon, and there's always usually at least one or two that are really wonky. When you read it, if you don't have a full understanding of the law.
They've been out for 3 days. You haven't read them yet?
We plan on having him on for our resolution show. He's going to be on for our resolution show as well, since he is the smartest lawyer I know.
Yeah.
Right. So there's always one or two, resolutions that you read that, everybody's like, yeah, I kind of know what this means, but nobody really knows. So he might do something like that, or he may just, just general how Grand Lodge works or something like whatever. Anyway, either way, you're going to learn something. And so
Very
looking
cool.
forward to that. So I think several people are interested in coming. So that's going to be the second Tuesday in December.
Sounds awesome, man.
Yeah, it should be.
That'll be fun. Well, I'll just Byron, do you have anything?
Yeah, just real quick. So many great topics tonight, and thank you and Dennis both for bringing them up, and Jason and Cody too, and Jeff. I mean, holy cow! I love coming on this show because not only do I get to crack an occasional bad joke, but I always learn something, and for that I am grateful to you guys for allowing me to be part of this. The law, not law, the acceptance equaling love, equaling forgiveness. That's a great conversation that we really need to have on a broader level, not just within our fraternity, but within our society at large.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that we get to have that conversation tonight. I kept flashing back to, and I think it's from Buddhism, that word namaste. The God in me sees the God in you. And I try to keep that in the forefront of my mind, but I see it also in the men that I surround myself with, and you guys are some of those dudes. So just thanks again. Really appreciate it. And yeah, that's it for me.
Appreciate that, man. That's good.
Man, I always feel humbled when you start talking and giving accolades. Golly, man. I,
Yeah.
he's got to be talking about Justin. Oh my gosh.
Actually, I was talking about Cody, but go ahead.
Yes, you're right.
Well, I will say real quick that I know Jeff's a new Master Mason, and I'm not trying to overinflate what we do here, but I wish when I was a new Master Mason, 2006, that there was a group, any group, that I could go onto on a weekly basis and discuss deep topics with Freemasonry, something besides fish fries, and how to where to. Granted, I'm a district instructor, so I shouldn't be a little bit too much, but like where to stand when I'm doing this or that during a ritual. I just wasn't at that point in my Masonic journey where that was interesting to me. So I'm glad you're here, Jeff. I'll say that. Also, and I know Dennis will hit on this more. Before we did our live tonight, I was looking at the email. We got 15 emails for the dinner already, and so they're coming in. And so if you're listening to this, or if you're in this group, and you're going to be at Grand Lodge, and you want to come to and I think Byron, you sent one. Jason, did you send one yet? Did you send an email? Jeff, I assume you're probably.
I may have talked to your co-host directly and wasn't sure if you had a spot, but maybe I should. Maybe I should send an email, huh?
You have to because we're saying. Well, actually, for our inner circle, we're going to send the link to our inner circle anyways, so you'll get one anyways.
Yeah, but yeah, we
timing me. No, you gotta do this.
Well, but if you hit, link,
but if you hit going, it's gonna attract more attention to the stupid link, dude.
Yeah,
I already did that.
Come on, bruh. But yeah, so there's definitely some interest in. How many did we have last year? Was it 50?
We had 55.
55. So we're
yeah. I let a couple extra people in because I felt bad.
Yeah. So
there were people I wanted in, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
You knuckled under peer pressure. Don't even fib.
No, it wasn't peer pressure.
He's willing to accept requests. So.
And therein lies the love.
Yeah. But anyway, my point is, like, we're getting emails and they're coming in, and I don't know if we got any new ones today, but we've got quite a few in just a short amount of time. So if you're watching this. If you're wanting in, again, even inner circle people, like, you'll get the link, but go ahead and just send the email, hit going, so we just kind of have that head count and everything. But it's very exciting. Other than that, like, I try to steer conversations in a way where it's not like I hate to say offensive, because I feel like everyone's trying to avoid offending everybody, but in a way where it's not off-putting, because I know we are in Texas. It is a very Christian, very Southern Baptist state, and I know we have a lot of brothers from out of state that feel very strongly about their faith, and this is by no means any way to say, like, I mean, I may be completely wrong. Who knows? I'm not saying anybody's wrong about anything. I'm just sharing my perspective on things, and I know Dennis is doing the same thing too, with the hopes that maybe it just gets you thinking. And I'm not saying, and if it makes you a little bit uncomfortable, that should be even more reason why you should probably reevaluate. Why do you feel uncomfortable? What about this makes me not want to listen to it? It makes me uncomfortable. And I think that's just an important part of self-reflection. So don't be off-put by it if you're listening and you got this far and you hadn't turned us off and you just didn't like where some of the conversation went. Ask yourself why. Why do you feel like that threatens you? Why does that make you uncomfortable? Because my goal is, and I can't speak for Dennis, but my goal is not to convert you to some weird little esoteric belief system. I just want you to start thinking outside the box. And I think as Masons, we should all be willing to hear other people out and think outside the box. And does that have a place in my belief system, or do I feel like they're onto something? Should I look into it more, or I just think it's complete nonsense? But don't just be outright dismissive of something because it's not in a book or it's not something you've been taught. But other than that, thank you all, as always, for coming onto the show. I love all of you, appreciate all of you. I accept all of you. I forgive all of you. That's very, but y'all really like I say every month, every year. I mean, every week, y'all are the. I mean, if I'm the brain and Dennis is the mouth, y'all are the heart and soul of Masonic improvement. So I'll just leave it at that. But Dennis, go ahead and share your final thoughts. I'm gonna turn off my camera real quick. I gotta use the bathroom, but by all
Yeah,
means,
you
I'll be
should
quick.
probably leave it at that.
And definitely shut off your camera for that.
Yeah.
Please. Yeah, and turn off your mic. I don't want to hear it. So I'd like to piggyback a little bit off of what Justin was saying, and that is that, I can be pretty abrasive when it comes to um, the church and different religions and stuff like that, just because it I've been treated so harshly through religions that I feel like I can give a little back, but it's not to hurt anybody's feelings or anything like that. I just like to be a man of my own beliefs, and so I'm gonna dig, and I'm gonna try to learn as much as I can. Hell, tomorrow I might think that, what was that space cadet thinking, and I definitely am going to only read the books of the Bible, and that's it. Or I may just go a completely different direction and say, yeah, that book was nice. On to the next book. But I'm not. But it's that really just depends on where my studies take me, because I am studying. And that's the thing, is I want everyone to study. I want you to study for yourself, not because somebody told you to, I but for yourself, so that you can come to your own conclusions, because this is your journey and not my journey. And that's where it is so important for us to accept each other in each other's journey. Um, we have just tons of Christian brothers in Freemasonry, and that's great. In fact, uh, 10 years ago, when Freemasonry first came about, it was more of a Christian fraternity, and it actually didn't until later on um, become less Christian. That happened around the time of the split of the moderns and the ancients, and then the bringing back together, that it morphed into what it is today. Um, so that being said, I'm not trying to say that anybody is wrong in their beliefs. I'm just trying to challenge people in what you believe. And the reason why I challenge people is because, there's a lot of brothers out there that feel like they're on this island because they believe something different than the rest of their lodge does, or even the rest of their district does. And I don't want any brother to feel like they're on an island by themselves, because we're right here with you, and we accept you the way you are, and we want to be a part of your journey, and we hope that you want us to be a part of your journey, so that we all can learn from each other. That's the goal of this. It's not to preach down to everybody from our own pulpit, talking trash about somebody on their pulpit. That's not the goal of uh, this YouTube channel and podcast. It's simply not. It never was. The idea was to be that little glimmer of light out there for the brother who's not seeing a lot of light where they're at, and reminding you that it's okay to be who you are in this fraternity. We love you. We thank you for listening. And going back to our dinner, we have our guest speaker. Um, Anyone who has seen this gentleman speak um, knows that he's a good speaker, and you'll be excited to find out soon enough. I've seen a lot of people that have said interested and not sent in the emails when I know that they want to come to the dinner. If you are only showing interested and not an email, there will not be a seat for you at our table. There will not. I'm just telling you. There are too many people that are interested in coming, and as we vet those people that are interested in coming to our table, there won't be a seat left for you January 1st. That's my cutoff date, and I'm going to stick firm with it. And you have to send the email so that you can get the invitation from the restaurant. You'll receive an invitation from the restaurant with the menu and everything that goes with it beforehand. And that's another thing about this is that instead of doing an Eventbrite or something like that to where they charge extra on top of what you're doing, this restaurant is actually going to do all this for us, and they're going to send out a link so you can pay them directly for your meal, and so your seat is secured at the table, and it's all done in advance, and there's a certain cutoff time for them. I've created a little bit of a grace period in between that January 1st and what their cutoff time is, but that's for me. That's so that I can make sure that our ducks are in a row as we're going into this, and make sure that they didn't have any problems and we didn't have any problems with our guests that said that they were going and whatnot. But that's something that there's several people that have said interested that I know said they want to go. And so just know this isn't like your other Masonic, oh, I'm interested kind of thing. This is you're either going or you're not. So you gotta shit or get off the pot. Excuse my French. But that's about all the French I know. You either shat or get off the pot.
All right,
But
so you have to click going and send an email.
yes.
And talking to you
Yes.
does no good.
Don't make it sound complicated, Jason. Come on.
I know, right? He's just giving me crap
Me,
because I told him
me speaking to you is not enough.
no.
I'm
It
just
is
making
not.
clear.
I'm being very clear. No, it is not enough. Because what happens is you get certain people that speak to Justin and certain people that speak to me, and my
And I won't
memory is
remember the
not that
conversation.
good.
Yeah.
Now, Jason, I was going to say, Jason, of all people, you should know more than anyone else that my memory is not that good. And no, you would have gotten one, Jason. But for everyone else out there, I mean, it's our inner circle's getting an email. They're getting it no matter what. But for anybody who's not an official paid subscriber to our channel, you're not getting an automatic email. You're not officially an inner circle. This is an inner circle dinner for these brothers that are part of our inner circle, a part of our show. They keep us going, and they're part of our conversations on a regular basis. So everyone else is just a guest of the inner circle, in my opinion. And so make sure you click on going, and make sure you send that email, or you will not get the invitation from Diamondbacks, because that's only coming from us telling them to send it to you. Mm-hmm. That's our vetting process. Do you want to go ahead and announce our guest speaker?
Yeah, let's go ahead.
All right, so you heard it here first. Our guest speaker for the night is the one, the only, the notorious, and one of our biggest hits on viewership when it comes to our show, Kyle Walquist. He's going to be our speaker, and the topic of the night will be, where do we go from here? And I think it's timely. I think it's important. And I think that everyone is going to walk away better. And not only do we have that presentation, but he's actually going to leave us room to where we can talk at the end. Just kidding. But that's how we do this, is that we have the presentation and then we discuss it and debate it throughout our evening, just like we're supposed to do as Masons who believe that the intent of each other is the right intent for the betterment of Masonry. We believe in each other and we believe in rhetoric. And that's what the night is filled with. It's an upscale event. We have our own dining room. We have our own dining staff. We have our own bar within our dining room, and everything that is said in there stays in there.
What is it?
And
we never talked about the dress code. What's the dress code going to be on this?
Suit and tie only. If you do not show up in a suit and tie, you will not get in. I don't care if you bought a ticket.
Yeah.
I don't care. It's suit and tie only. That's the dress code for this event. Like I said, this is an event for the gentlemen of the day who are going to discuss the topics of the day. And it's very important that you realize that. This is, Grand Lodge happens once a year. And this is the event to be at in that once a year event.
Yeah.
It's the one that you're gonna be with many like-minded brothers, some that are like-minded but a little bit different, so that you'll have that good conversation going back and forth, and you'll be surrounded by people at your table that at the table that throughout the whole evening you'll be able to have great conversation and discussion.
It's definitely not an echo chamber, to be clear. Like there are different opinions about high-level things.
Oh yeah. Last year was great.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, we're going to watch the folks that are doing the pub crawl pass us by, and we will toast to them during the process. It's going to be a great night of Masonry. And they typically only give people a couple of hours for a reservation for any room or whatever, but they're giving us from 6 o'clock until they close, which is at 10 o'clock for our dinner.
Yeah.
So this is not your everyday affair. That you are not going to be treated the same as every other person, even at their dining table, in their dining room. I mean, they treat us special, and you should. It's a great event.
Yeah.
So, Kyle Walquist is our speaker. He graciously was voluntold that he was going to be our speaker, and he was happy to hear it. He is looking forward to it. Otherwise, registration is open for Grand Lodge. Make sure you get your ticket. The Grandmaster's Banquet is on the same night. So if you're having that debate in your head on which one you want to go to, you got to make that decision.
Two very different dinners, though.
Two very different dinners. One is Pomp and Circumstance, which is great. It's fun. I've been to the Grandmaster's dinners.
Yeah.
And I always enjoy it. The girls like to dress up and go out to dinner, but it's not the same conversation.
Yeah, I was about to say.
And it's not the
thing.
same caliber. Yeah, it's not the same caliber brothers that are in the room. These are the brothers in our dinner that they actively pursue talking about the things that are important to their Masonry. They're intentional with their Freemasonry. And don't get me wrong, the brothers that go to the Grandmaster's Banquet are intentional about their Freemasonry, but it's a different kind of Freemasonry. It's a different type of experience that they're looking for in that dinner. So I don't want to bash on the Grandmaster's Banquet because I've been to them and I enjoy them.
Mm-hmm.
But now that we do our dinners, I enjoy ours more. That's why we do them.
Yeah.
We never intended on competing with the Grandmaster's Banquets, but that's how it ended up, and that's how it'll stay.
Yeah.
Let's see, what else? So get registered. We need you there at Grand Lodge. It's going to be another packed house from what I can tell.
Awesome.
Bring your own apron if you have one, because last year they ran out of aprons to pass out to everybody. Um, I think I'm going to create an itinerary for the Grand Lodge official stuff, as well as the offshoots. Friday night is always fun too at the backyard bar and grill. Um, that is Brother Robert Marshall's place, and it's always a great event. Um, let's see. That's really about it. I think I've touched on pretty much all I wanted to touch on.
Yeah.
I think that we had a great conversation tonight of a bunch of great topics, and again, like I said, I wasn't trying to make anybody feel bad about their religious beliefs. I talk trash because I came from a long line of trash talkers, and it's not that I, you know, hate any particular religion or anything like that. I just don't I don't always drink from the same cup. I have a lot of the same beliefs, but not every belief is the same. And so I speak on my truth. And I hope that whatever your truth is your truth. And that's what's important to me. Otherwise, thank you, brothers, for joining us tonight. And I think that next weekend, like I said last weekend, next weekend we need to do just a members only. We won't go live. Let's do a members only so that we can talk about a few of the things we can't talk about on our lives.
Okay.
If that's all right.
Absolutely.
And we need to do it now because pretty soon we're probably going to have to knock off a few of the lives because of all the people we got lined up to come in and speak and to be on the show so that we can get them in a timely manner.
I agree. We can do that.
But otherwise, thank you, brothers. We love you, and keep it between the points.
Later.